In today's hot take on MLK Day, I want to remind everyone what a joke CNN is with two clips. One of the BLM riots and the other of January 6th. The bias is obvious, so let's start with the absolute anarchy on January 6th.
Well, Jake Tapper, I don't know about you, but this is an incredibly dangerous situation that's unfolding here in the United States.
It's stunning, Wolf. It's absolutely stunning, and it's quite frankly dangerous.
As John said, this is basically taking over, storming the Capitol. It's anarchy. It really is anarchy.
They stay between the ropes a little more than I would have expected for a dangerous mob in a scene of pure anarchy. I mean, if I listened to that coverage without the video, I would not have imagined people walking calmly between velvet ropes, would you? What I'd imagine would look a lot more like the mayhem in Kenosha, with a building burning in the background, but CNN generously described that as fiery but mostly peaceful.
What you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark contrast to what we saw over the course of the daytime hours in Kenosha and into the early evening, which were largely peaceful demonstrations in the face of law enforcement. It wasn't until night fell that things began to get a little bit more contentious. Things were thrown back and forth. Police started using some of those crowd dispersal tactics like tear gas, even playing very loud sounds to push them out. And then what you are seeing, the common theme that ties all of this together, is an expression of anger and frustration over what people feel like has become an all too familiar story playing out in places from across the country, not just here in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
I'm tempted to just leave it at that, because the bias is so obvious it's almost shocking, but I can't help myself. At the end of the fiery but mostly peaceful protest clip, the CNN propagandist even tries to justify BLM and Antifa's violence and destruction by referencing an all-too-familiar story playing out across the country. What is that all-too-familiar story? It's black suspects, instead of obeying the simple commands of police officers, pulling weapons on them and then getting predictably shot. The theme is that the propaganda factories like CNN keep telling their black viewers that the cops are out to get them, and then filming the predictable aftermath when black suspects don't remain calm and obey the commands of police officers. More black suspects end up getting shot, which is good for CNN because it furthers the narrative. And that's the dirty little secret. CNN doesn't care about any of these so-called victims. They're just martyrs towards their goal of furthering the narrative of a racist America. But I digress. The bottom line is that CNN will keep making excuses for the inexcusable destruction and violence caused by Antifa and BLM because they are directly responsible for it. They create and propagate the lies that drive them to rage against law and order itself. But January 6th? Well, that's dangerous because they aren't in control of that. It's dangerous because they didn't create that narrative and they aren't driving that mob to violence. It's dangerous because those people know what a joke CNN is. And it's that knowledge, which lessens their power to push propaganda, that CNN anchors view as the true threat. As a side note, I'll point out that the only person who was killed during the riot on January 6th was Ashley Babbitt, an unarmed white female, and that shooting was more unjustified than most, if not all, of the shootings that BLM rioted over. But CNN didn't care one bit about that unjustified murder, because Ashley Babbitt didn't have the right skin color, or the right political affiliation. I'll also point out that the BLM riots collectively killed many innocent people. I encourage you to rewind and watch those clips again to remind yourself what biased coverage really looks like. It's usually not in the form of overt lies, because those are too easy to identify and call out. It's almost always facts intermingled with a supremely biased leftist worldview. That's what modern propaganda looks like. And that's it for now. Please like and subscribe. Visit my site, docrightwing.com. And until next time, comrades.